The past 2 weeks, we have heard plenty of conjecture about why Donald Trump won the election. Tonight, we're going to talk with the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University, who has some theories of his own, and they have to do with education and elitism. Everett Piper is with us tonight. Dr. Piper, thank you very much. You know, parents of college students today, myself included, are really struggling to understand what is going on campus in general. We've got forbidden words and books. We've got these safe spaces. We've got microaggressions, people being identified almost exclusively by their ethnicity and not by the content of their character, turning Dr. Martin Luther King's ideas on their head. How did we get here?
I would argue this is an indictment of my industry, of the American Academy, of our colleges and universities. We created this monster. This is our fault, and now somehow we're surprised that it's turning around to bite us. I mean, stop and think about it. For decades, we've been sending our kids off to institutions that teach narcissism and self-absorption, and now we're surprised that they're narcissistic and self-absorbed. We've celebrated self-actualization and diminished and laughed in the face of self-discipline, and somehow we're surprised to see a selfish college student, a selfish student body. You know, Richard Weaver told us in his seminal document, his seminal work in 1948 that was titled Ideas Have Consequences, that ideas have consequences. Bad ideas lead to bad behavior, bad culture, bad government, and bad community. And good ideas lead to the opposite: good government, good community, good culture, and good kids. As your grandmother said, garbage in and garbage out, and she was right. The ideas that we feed the next generation, if you will, are those ideas that will bear fruit in our culture. And when we send our students off to institutions that celebrate political pablum, politically correct pablum, when we send them off to consume ideological carcinogens, if you will, we shouldn't be surprised when they return home on Thanksgiving break with cancer of the heart, mind, and soul. Again, higher education, the American Academy, has created this monster, and we shouldn't be surprised that it's turning around to bite us.
Well, you just mentioned what your grandmother told you, or my grandmother. I happened to be going through a box of old family letters not too long ago, and I found my grandmother's report card from George Washington University in, I think it was 1916 or 17. She had 5 subjects on this little report card: Greek, Latin, math, science, English, and history, something like that. She was, by the way, the first female editor of the college newspaper in the college's history. But is that what we're missing? Studies like that?
Absolutely. I'll go back and I'll quote G.K. Chesterton. He said to us that when you get rid of the big laws, you don't get liberty, but rather thousands and thousands of little laws that rush in to fill the vacuum. In other words, when you stop teaching the big ideas, the good ideas, the great books, the great book, when you stop teaching veritas, Latin for truth, and you start peddling politically correct pablum, what you're going to get is thousands and thousands of little ideas, little laws that rush in to fill this vacuum. And you don't get academic freedom. You don't get intellectual freedom as the result of that. You get ideological fascism, where power and popularity controls the debate rather than the pursuit of truth. You know, Christ himself told us that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. There's a reason those words are emblazoned across many a college seal and university seal for the last several decades and centuries. If you go all the way back to Oxford some 1,000 years ago, it was founded to pursue veritas, truth, because it's that truth that gives us the context of freedom. Not politics and not power and not opinions, but truth.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because I suspect that some of your critics, some of the people in the Academy of today, might say you're doing exactly what they've done, because you were recently quoted in a piece that you wrote that I refuse to let my desire to win trump my moral compass. You were talking about the election of Donald Trump and how you would refuse to allow him to speak on your campus. Quote, I will not sell my soul or my universities to a political process that values victory more than virtue. How do you defend that?
Well, I think virtue is much more important than a political victory. A political victory that lacks veritas, lacks virtue, is very limited and very short-lived, because sooner or later it will succumb to power. The principles of a free republic are grounded in self-evident truths that are endowed to us by our Creator, those self-evident truths that give us the unalienable rights of life and liberty and happiness. Not haplessness that's grounded in vengeance and vice, but happiness, purpose, that's grounded in veritas and the pursuit of truth. And Os Guinness told me when I studied in Oxford this past summer that if you want liberty, always vote for the covenant, the Constitution, if you will. Never vote for a hierarchy. And his point was this: it's the ideas of the covenant, it's the ideas of the Constitution that will endure. Presidents come and presidents go, but the covenant, the ideas endure, and it's those ideas that give you liberty and liberation and freedom and justice. And that should be the goal of the Academy, not the perpetuation and the peddling of politically correct ideas and comfort. This is why we've got students crying for Play-Doh and puppies and bubbles and coloring books in their counseling centers and in their cry rooms, rather than going to a classroom where they're pursuing what's just and right and real and true.
Dr. Piper, I'd love to delve into this more with you. We're flat out of time. Dr. Everett Piper of Oklahoma Wesleyan University, thanks for your time, sir.
Blessings.